I watched a TED Talk yesterday that began with these questions. If you can sit through the worst of traffic and remain perfectly calm, if you can watch your neighbor go on fantastic trips and not get the least bit jealous, if you can love everybody unconditionally, and if you can always be happy exactly right where you are, then you must be a dog. It makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, in our society, there are bajillions of rules, of expectations. There are perceptions about what success are, and somehow, even though these expectations, these perceptions, and these rules aren't written down, we're supposed to know all of them. We're supposed to know all of them. So it's no wonder that we are actually put in situations where we don't feel like we're enough, that we can't keep up, that we don't know, that we make faux pas and all of those things. And when we do, when we don't fit into a mold or match up to those expectations, we tend to do one of three things. Number one, we strive to conform. If we feel like we're too fat, we go on a diet and we get skinny. If our hair goes prematurely gray, we color it, we conform. Or we rebel and work to create a new norm. My older son lives in Eugene, Oregon, and Eugene, Oregon is a mecca for hippies. It's just a mecca for hippies. But what do you do if your parents are hippie and you want to rebel? Well, you become alternative. What do you do when your parents are alternative and you want to rebel? Well, my son Mark, he says, Mom, you can't get any more piercings, you can't grow dreads, you can't get any more tattoos, and rainbow dyeing your hair rainbow colors just is so passé. So eventually you're going to become a conservative. It's not the usual rebel we think of, right? Or we take ourselves out of the game. And this one, I think, is the saddest and truly the most insidious of all. We remove ourselves from a group bit by bit, or we remove ourselves from society bit by bit. Because we have all these self-judgments. I'm not this, I'm not that, I am this, or I am that. And we begin through our self-judgment to shame ourselves. And here's the backwards thing about shame. We feel like if we can shame ourselves enough, we will actually improve. Yeah, I know, we laugh, but it's sad. Shame actually shuts down those parts of our brains that enable us to grow and to learn. And our challenge becomes like, all of a sudden it's like, but I feel this, but there's a dissonance with the spiritual truth of who I am. There's a gulf or a gap between what I feel and what I perceive to be feeling and the spiritual truth of who and what I am. The spiritual truth of us is that we are beloved expressions of God. The spiritual truth of us is that we're here for a holy purpose. The spiritual truth of us is that we are always in the right place at the right time, right now. So our job, our challenge, is to recognize that we're out of alignment with our spiritual truth. We're out of alignment with that core, that truth of who we are, as we perceive that we are something else, as we self-judge ourselves to be something else. There are many, many practical spiritual tools which help us bridge that gap, which help us close it up so that there are more and more times where we're remembering the spiritual truth of us. I think the quickest and the easiest one is to practice kindness. To practice kindness with ourselves. Kindness produces dopamine, which is one of the 4 chemicals that are in the happiness family. Dopamine changes the physiology in our body. And kindness actually restarts and opens those learning and growing centers in our brain. So kindness is an awesome thing. Here are 2 ways that we can engage in kindness. And one is mirror work, like, oh no, you're going to make me look in the mirror. Well, I'm not going to make you, I'm going to invite you to look in the mirror. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and said, oh, I love you? Okay, this morning, all right. Can you see his halo? Most of us have halos around our feet called guilt and shame, and they're called shackles. But anyways, that's a Depeche Mode song, but anyway. Okay, mirror work. Look in the mirror, say, I love you, and then you say your name. Now, this is really hard for a lot of us. Some people have been doing it for years. Good on you. Pat yourself on the back. That's fabulous. But for the beginners, here's what I invite you to do. Look in the mirror. Imagine that you're looking in the mirror if you don't have one in front of you. Put your hand on your heart. You say, good morning, and then you say your name. Okay? So let's practice. Good morning. See, that wasn't so bad. Putting your hand on your heart actually releases, I'm going to say it very slowly, oxytocin. Because if I say it quickly, it comes out like OxyContin. That's not what we want. Oxytocin is another one of the 4 happiness chemicals that can change the physiology of our body. So we'll practice it one more time the beginner's way. Good morning, Mindy. And after a month or 6 months or a year, however long it takes you to work up to the advanced level, you look in the mirror. We're going to practice it now so you'll remember it later. I love you, Mindy. You say, I love you, and then you add your name. I love you, Mindy. Just like that. The second way is this one, hugs. Hugs. Hugs release both oxytocin and serotonin. So now we've got kindness with dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin coming through our system. What they do is they produce the 4th one, endorphins. So we're happy, we're loving ourselves, and we're happy. Virginia Satir says this about hugs. We need a minimum of 4 hugs a day to just survive. We need 8 hugs a day to stay in the maintenance mode. And we need 12 hugs a day to grow and to learn. So here we go. You can hug yourself. It works that way too. One arm this way, one arm that way. Give a little squeeze. That's 1. Give 3 more squeezes. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to survive. Change your arms. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're in maintenance mode, and I challenge you by the end of the day to get 4 more, and then you'll be, oh yeah, they got the advanced stuff going on over here. They're hugging each other. Yes. So 4 more by the end of the day, and you'll be opening and activating those learning and growing centers in your brain. And why am I talking about kindness? Why am I talking about self-love when the talk title is You Matter? Because the metaphysics work this way. We have to go in to go out. We have to go in and find self-love before we can genuinely take it out. We have to go in and generate those love frequencies before we can begin vibrating them out. We live on a vibratory planet. Everything, even people, have vibrations. So as we amplify that frequency that's in us, we create the ripple effect going out into the world. So I'm going to generate the frequency of love, and Renee's going to get it, and he's going to give it to Marie, and then she's going to get it, and she's going to give it to 3 more people, and then 3 more people, and 3 more people, and 3 more people, and pretty soon we've lifted the consciousness of the entire planet. Makes sense, right? There's a woman by the name of Vicki O'Grady in Orlando, Florida. One day she decided she was going to make 2 cardboard signs and carry them around in her car. And one of them said, sorry, which she used when she accidentally cut in front of people in traffic. And the other one said thank you when she noticed that people were creating an opening for her in traffic and she could get in. After a while, she was led to make a third sign, and the third sign she held up at intersections. So every time she stopped at the intersection, she would hold up this sign, and the sign said, "You matter." Because she felt this was a message that people in our society needed to hear. People were in need of that reminder of their divinity, of their worth, of that their very way of being was welcomed in the world. What Vicki O'Grady was not aware of were some very startling statistics. 20% of the people who die after they reach the age of 85 die from suicide. Every day, not just Monday through Friday, but every day, almost 4,000 high school students attempt suicide. We lose more veterans to suicide than we do to death in combat. There are people who are hurting, and those are the people on the extreme edge. There's a lot of people in between recognizing their own self-worth, their own value, and that edge of suicide. So this is a message that the world needs to hear. Well, Vicki decided that holding the sign up at intersections wasn't enough, and she began to print business cards. She and Vistaprint are best friends. She began to print these business cards, and she took them with her wherever she went. And she began handing them out. And then she gave stacks of them to people to hand out. And now she mails stacks and stacks of these little teeny tiny cards all over the world. People need to be reminded. We need to be reminded that we matter. Catherine Green, who's a new member, is Vicki O'Grady's niece, and she's now a member of our community. And she came to Community and Worldwide Service meeting, and she said, "Let's do this as a project." And the Community and Worldwide Service team said, "Yes, let's do it in April. This is great. We can have it on Earth Day. It'll just, everything will be great." And I was so excited. I got on the internet and I started reading and researching. And I came back to Catherine and I said, "I'm so excited." I read story after story on the website. I read the book. I ordered the t-shirt. Look, does the t-shirt look anything like that You Matter card? No. So I tell Catherine, and she goes, "What are you talking about? My aunt's never written a book. My aunt hasn't, she doesn't, what are you talking about?" And I said, "Oh, I looked at this website." And she said, "There's another website." And what this says to me, that this is an idea that is so powerful, whose time has come, that there are two worldwide movements who are now going out and reaching out to people to say, "You matter. You matter. From me to you, you matter." Here's what the You Matter Compassion Project website says. Everyone wants to matter to someone. It's a fundamental part of who we are. Feeling like we are alone in the world or that our lives are inconsequential is untrue and debilitating. It's important to remember that people are not a reflection of their situations. Even in our darkest hours, we are capable of goodness and kindness. Suffering can be a powerful catalyst to change your outlook, make a difference, and inspire others to do the same. Saying you matter can lift someone's spirits, brighten someone's outlook, and even save someone's life. And here are some stories from their Facebook page. I was at the library today, and the ladies who work the desk were telling me that someone asked about a You Matter card that I had left there. The woman who asked was a social worker and thought it would be a good idea to get the card to give to her clients. Well, the librarian immediately picked up the card and gave it to the social worker and said, "This is for you." The social worker teared up, saying that she herself had had a very difficult day. I want to share a conversation I had with a friend tonight. She's in recovery and told me that a couple of weeks ago she was taking an Uber home after a particularly crappy day and crappy night. She wanted a drink and was contemplating having one. The Uber stopped at a light and she looked out and saw a You Matter sign in the window. And at the next intersection, the Uber stopped again and she saw a second You Matter sign in the window. And she thought, I pass these cards out to people. And yet here is the message coming back to me when I needed it the most. She told me that seeing those two signs made all the difference, and she went home and did not drink. She realized that she mattered and wasn't going to throw her sobriety away just because of a crappy day. I gave my 7-year-old grandson a You Matter card today. He read it and gave a quiet, sweet smile. I asked him if he knew what it meant, and he gave a gentle nod. I told him then that I wanted him to always know that he mattered. He acted quite shy about the whole thing, very unlike him, so I knew it really got to him. I asked him if he wanted some cards to pass around to people he knew. He got very excited and said yes. His mom and I speculated that he wanted to give them to the teacher or a discouraged student or the cafeteria lady or maybe his bus driver. And he said, no, he shouted, I'm going to put them in my friend's trick-or-treat bags. Last week, I gave You Matter cards to 2 police officers on campus, and again to 2 more officers in a restaurant where I was having lunch today. This was really difficult for me, for unfortunately, I have had a very negative view of law enforcement due to all the brutality reported in the news. The smiles and appreciation I received back for them was priceless. I'm going to make it a point to give out as many cards to law enforcement as possible. I think this will help me let go of my own anger and get to my own healing. So what we have for you today is a jump start. The ushers are going to come forward. They have packets of 3 cards. You can go to youmattercompassionproject.org. You Matter Compassion Project, you Google it, you'll find it and order stacks and stacks and stacks if you want to. But what the ushers are going to do, and what I'm inviting you to do, is to take these cards. Go ahead, pass them out. We have a lot of people. And hold them in your hands while we meditate. Because we are extremely powerful people. And we have unity to remind us of the tools we need to reset to kindness, to reset to self-love, to reset to our own self-worth. I'll show you this last slide because it reminds us what we're up to. We all have the power to lift up each other. Step 1, generate the kindness within ourselves. Step 2, ripple out to someone else and tell them, you matter. Let's practice. You matter. Again. You matter. It's really an opportunity to have a 2-second eye-to-eye connection with other people. We don't even actually have to say anything with our words. We've generated the energy from within. We've infused the cards with our own love, with our own support. And serendipitously, which is another name for the divine, for spirit, these cards will show up exactly where they need to be, when they need to be, when people most need them. So let's go ahead and sing. We have plenty of cards, don't we? Let's sing and come into meditation.